Hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast, coming to you on the eve of the first Grand Slam of the 2026 season. The press conferences are all done. The soon-to-be Adelaide predictions have all been made. All that's left is Crowded House, Roger Federer, and one more sleep until it all gets underway. Yes, this is our Australian Open hype show, which means, of course, we have the return of David Law. David?
Yep, I'm ready. I'm ready to hype stuff. Not that it needs it, because it looks bloody good without me anyway.
And we have, of course, for a hype show, a very special guest, your friend of mine, big with dads. It's Pamela Howard Shriver.
Yes, she's back. Let's see if I can still string a sentence or two together. Thanks for having me.
Big with dads, Pam, regardless of how many sentences you can string together, I reckon. Matt?
I'm here. I haven't got a name tag on like Pam has. I'm enjoying looking at that.
Pam, you're bringing Shriver resets to the masses.
Yeah, the reset. I'm morphing before your eyes into a mindset performance coach, which is something near and dear to my heart, as you guys know, the last few years, and really grateful to be partnering again with Yonex, a racket I played with the last 10 years of my career. They make the best frame in the business, and they want to support their players, and any resource I can give in my 47 years of pro tennis experience, I'm ready to give it, whether you're trying to prevent burnout, whether you're trying to manage your skills mid-match so that you can still breathe and have clarity of thought. This is I think it's my last pivot. Well, I'd never say last, but it's kind of a cool one. I'm really enjoying it.
Never Say Never Again, Pam. That's a James Bond title. Never Say Never. Isn't that a James Bond title?
That's right, yeah.
Well, that's a good
Very
segue.
Good, Catherine.
Done well there, haven't I? Matt's mindset will never be anything but positive after yesterday. Still riding high, Matt?
I am, yeah, I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Did you see my call out, Pam?
Call out of? Sorry, maybe I didn't.
Pam, you're not nearly online enough.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's part of my reset.
Yeah.
Not to be online enough.
You're practicing what you preach. Yeah. Well, the pod, actually. It wasn't a call out for me specifically. It was a call out for the pod from Amanda Anisimova.
Oh, of course I heard it. I heard it because I listened this morning when I was working out in the gym. Of course I did. I smiled and I felt great.
Pam, my brother is a big Yonex guy, big Yonex advocate. He's also a Lucanardi advocate, so I'm not sure how his credibility is, but he's always banging on about his Yonexes. Today is the last day before Grand Slam action begins for 2026. It is also, by the way, the final call for Grand Slam predictions, guest editorships and pet mascots before we close those categories down when play starts at 11 a.m. local time in Australia tomorrow. So if you want to take us on at predictions at one of the slams, edit a friend's show or make your pet a mascot, then you have very limited time to sign up via the link in the show notes. And what you also get by becoming a friend of the pod of any form is access to all of our bonus content, past, present and future, and that includes the latest freshly dropped episode of Tennis Podcast Meets, our interview series that releases every Grand Slam. And this time around, folks, we have an A-list lineup. Not that they're not always in their own way, but this time we have Grigor Dimitrov, Taylor Fritz, Jasmine Paolini, Teresa Valentova, and a really special interview that the three of us did earlier today with 1 Point Slam finalist and slayer of Nick Kyrgios and Alexander Zverev back-to-back, Joanna Garland. Pam, we love Joanna Garland.
Well, when I commentated on her match of hers about 12 months ago, I nicknamed her Judy Garland, Wizard of Oz. And you know what? She became almost the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, we will be following her progress so close. We're trying to get our editor Jib to fly to a WTA 125 event in Manila next week. Just so
if you're listening, Jib.
Yeah, we haven't told him that yet, but that's our plan, Jib.
Yeah, go there, take her Joanna Garland sign.
Yeah.
Cheer hard. Yeah. Oh, the way I'm going to be streaming WTA 125s over the coming months.
Yeah, she's an absolute joy, folks. So that episode is up and it is available for friends of the pod, and we're very proud of it. So we hope you enjoy it too. Now, today we have an order of play to go through, our first Grand Slam order of play of the season. We have some results to talk about. Matt's trying very hard not to be distracted by Tomas Machac at the moment, who's a break-up in the final set of his Adelaide final, to quote Novak Djokovic, against Ugo and Bear. And I think it's Novak Djokovic with whom we should start, because he came into the main interview room. He's always the last one in, isn't he? Always. And usually he puts us through it. He sets a time of, 1 p.m. on Friday and ends up coming in at 5 p.m. on Saturday, whereas this time he cut out the hoo-ha and just said, folks, we all know it's going to be 5 p.m. on Saturday. And there we all were, 5 p.m. on Saturday. But I have to say, David, that was not the Novak Djokovic I was expecting. I was quite shocked by how tired and weary and resigned he seemed and sounded.
Yeah, I was a bit as well. I suppose he was introduced into the room by the moderator as playing in his 21st Australian Open, and I suppose when you've been through this whole process and you've won the thing, 10 times, and you've been in all these pre-tournament press conferences, probably it does get a bit wearying and boring, and you might struggle to show much enthusiasm. Not that he wasn't polite when he walked in and he gave all the questions his due care and attention, but there was just a bit of a lack of fizz about him. There wasn't much energy. He didn't look that up for it all, to be honest, and that's fine. He needs to, I guess, ultimately look up for it when he gets out on the tennis court. But I asked him in my first question about his health, given that he'd produced some good performances at Grand Slams, consistent performances last year without breaking through against the ones that he really wants to beat. But he'd been in a constant battle with his body. He was always struggling with something, and that's no great surprise at the age of 38. And I wanted to know from him whether he'd found solutions in the off season. He'd had a couple of months without having to play tournaments. Has he figured it out? How does he feel? I just didn't get a really positive vibe from him, and he said he'd pulled out of Adelaide last week, Adelaide, because he'd felt something, and I think an issue with the neck. And I don't get the sense that he has cracked it, if you like. He constantly talked last year about how he kept running into a wall, really, physically, and it was almost like his energy levels would deplete as he was going through a Grand Slam. And by the time he really needed it against an Alcaraz or a Sinner, obviously a year ago against Alcaraz, he did find something incredibly special. But that's a year ago. He hasn't produced anything like that since, and today, I don't know, sometimes we can over evaluate the importance of somebody looking upbeat in a press conference before a tournament, but I also wouldn't want to dismiss what felt like a fairly weary looking guy.
Yeah, and it wasn't just sort of his tone or appearance or body language, it was all of that, but it was also things he said. He was asked about the pursuit of 25, and he said 24 is a good number. He was asked a very positively framed question about being sort of the best guy at slams last year other than Alcaraz and Sinner, and the question was, what sets you and Alcaraz and Sinner apart? He was, in the framing of the question, he was being put in with Alcaraz and Sinner, and it was, well, in one sense it was a double-sided question. It was A, what sets them apart, but also what sets you apart from the rest, the Fritzes and the Mazzettis that didn't reach all 4 Grand Slam semi-finals last year like you did. And the answer to the question, the answer that he gave was all about what he's missing, all about what he doesn't have that Alcaraz and Sinner has. He said, I don't know what everybody else is missing that's different to me, but I know what I'm missing. He said, I'm missing a bit of juice in my legs, to be honest. It was a really dejected, resigned answer, I thought.
Yeah, and the whole tone of the press conference in that sense shocked me a bit, because I remember his press conference at the US Open last year when he'd gone out of that tournament, and he'd reframed things. It was like he was talking about having a slightly different purpose in tennis now. He knows the reality of how good Sinner and Alcaraz are, and he was talking about other stuff that he can still get from this sport. And then you come to the first Grand Slam of the year, and he's talking all being about Sinner and Alcaraz again, and how short he is from them. And to go to David's point, not like he's found anything extra or new in the last few months to sort of make up that gap. And yeah, it's almost like I've come into this tournament with a slight bit of Novak Djokovic weariness, because I'm thinking, well, what is going to be new? And it's almost like he's got that a little bit as well. And those things that he was talking about at the end of last season just weren't really present in his press conference today. And look, obviously it comes with the caveat of this tournament has been the Novak Djokovic Open, and he can find something, he can create some drama, he can make the first few days of this tournament about him. And I might well end up thinking, wow, we've had another great Novak Djokovic moment along the way. I think that is entirely possible. But like at the moment, I'm kind of thinking we're probably going to see what we saw at the last three majors of last year. He's the most likely guy to come through his section, and Sinner's pretty likely to beat him in 3 or 4 sets in the semi-finals. And I'm just looking for something extra, but how do you get something extra when you're 38? Like, it's just a very, very odd situation right now with Novak Djokovic.
Can I bring up some big picture stuff from years gone by? Of course, it's 18 years ago, right? He won his first major down here, beating Tsonga, and I was courtside for that match for ESPN, which was kind of cool. But I also want to bring up 5 years ago, because that was an extraordinary trauma, what he went through. And one thing I feel like when athletes are getting ready to try and perform at their best, and however the mind takes them back, revisits stuff that's gone on in their life, I just want to kind of like hold true to what he went through 5 years ago. And not saying that entered his mind today, but you never know when something that horrendous is what he went through. And I'm saying it was a complicated time for the sport, right? During COVID, and when he was arrested and detained, and, the ESPN team was back in Bristol, Connecticut, calling back-to-back Australian Opens from Connecticut, not down here. So I'm just saying, like, who knows how he is? He's had more injuries probably at this first major of the year than any other major I can think of through the years. But nobody has practiced strong mindset training. And I feel if anyone can pull it together between now and when he plays his first round, it'll be Novak. And let's just see what a gift we have to see him still in the conversation.
Yeah, it's funny. I when he was asked that question about what sets him apart still, to which he gave the answer, I'm missing some juice in my legs. I was expecting him to talk about mindset, and like, for me, until he retires, he will be the strongest player mentally on tour. Like, I can't imagine an athlete that is stronger mentally than him, really.
And also, like, still understanding 5-set tennis. Okay,
Absolutely.
He doesn't have the juice in his legs at the latter stages against Sinner and Alcaraz, but he's still a master in the early rounds of understanding the ebbs and flows of 5-set tennis. And there was also so much opportunity to talk up, what a great player he still is, and the trampoline effect on his ground strokes that David talks about, and the improvements on his serve. Like, he is still an incredible player, and an incredible player to watch up close. And I've sounded down on Novak Djokovic there, but I agree with Pam. Like, it is still amazing that he's doing what he's doing, and we're privileged to be witnessing it. But yeah, like, the fact that he didn't even talk about that, and look, maybe he can't win. Maybe if he does talk himself up, people will say, "Oh, you're being really arrogant." But he was kind of presented with the chance. It wasn't.
He's never talked himself down like that before. This was different, and to be honest, the whole lead up has felt different. As you say, as soon as things kick off, he still does have a way to bend these tournaments around him and make himself the main character, and that could so easily happen. But I do think it's been notable in the build-up how much less Novak Djokovic has felt centre of attention this time around.
Yeah, I think this is the first time in Australia that I can remember that since he started winning the thing. Because even a year ago, he arrived here with Andy Murray as his coach. So he was the absolute centre of attention.
Is that definitely real,
yeah.
David? Are we sure?
I mean, it struck me actually when we were at the 1 Point Slam how a year earlier we'd been off to the first Novak Djokovic Andy Murray practice session, and we'd all been trying to sit in a position that would help us best eavesdrop on their first ever conversation as a sort of pair. That didn't last that long, but it had that incredible high of Djokovic beating Alcaraz. You can't underestimate how extraordinary that is, really. And I think Murray made me realise that again when we spoke to him a few weeks ago. But yeah, he comes in this time. It had sort of almost passed me by that he'd actually withdrawn from that Adelaide tournament because it didn't feel that significant. I wasn't surprised, really, because he doesn't often play warm-ups now. He often is injured with something. He seems to be injured more often than not. And I imagine, Pam, that must be quite wearying for any professional athlete when you just start going into events and there's always something. You're fighting your body.
Yeah, it's a big stressor, right? When you're not sure of the body, especially if you're playing 3 out of 5 sets. As you just reminded us, David, of what we were going through 12 months ago with Andy Murray here as coach of Djokovic, I just want to do a quick reflection and a shout back home. Because obviously, I just want to say to my home area of LA, I recognize what you guys were going through. Last year, I couldn't come down here. I had to cancel last minute. I just want to say thoughts to all my buddies back in LA who are 12 months into the rebuild, and how much the Australian Open, within 1 week of when the fires went out, or when the fire started, how much support actually LA felt from this tournament. So I just want to kind of put 12 months ago in that perspective and say that I do think that if Djokovic had Andy Murray on his team this year, I would feel a little more trust that he could work his way through this issue that he's dealing with right now.
Why is that?
Well, because I feel like Murray worked through everything physically that you could feel and still get himself up as ready as he could be. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that he doesn't have a peer and a friend. I mean, I know he's always going to have a great professional team around him, but you need the intangibles when you're trying to get every last drop out at the very, very end. And we'll see. I think it's what Catherine said. Who knows? He could reset and he could surprise us and be in the middle weekend, and let's FG, because who knows?
He had stuff to say about the PTPA, didn't he, in his decision to leave that organisation.
Yeah, he wasn't sort of reserved about it the way I expected him to be, in as much as, if you remember the statement he put out, he kind of said, look, I'm no longer involved with them. I don't like the way they've used my name in all their communications, and basically this is the last I'm going to say on the subject. Well, Matt Futterman of The Athletic asked him a question about, what his influence is likely to be in the tennis world in the future, how he would see himself, and kind of his views generally on the PTPA, how he feels about it now. Because I mean, this is an organisation that he invented, he created alongside Vasek Pospisil, as he explained, and he spoke for some time about it all, and he sounded quite a little bit sad about that as well, really, about how that's, and I'm not surprised really, because you push something like that when you're getting quite a lot of blowback. You're going to get a lot of blowback from the organisations, from the ATP, from certain of the players, certain of the sneering people in the industry. I mean, I think some of us in the media, sneered a bit at the start, and it was a bit. Some of it didn't look great with their photo shoot and all that sort of thing. But he believed in it and he pushed it and got it to a point where it's now launching these lawsuits that are actually leading to like a settlement with Tennis Australia, and suddenly Djokovic is no longer part of it and has distanced himself from it all. I sort of think, crikey, it's a shame you didn't find a way to make it work for yourself to still be part of this. Clearly it matters to you, but they did some things that you didn't agree with, and he's now just thrown them aside.
Yeah, and especially sort of he's done this at a stage of his career, obviously more acute as time goes on, that he must be thinking about legacy, and he must have thought of the PTPA as something that was going to form a big part of his legacy, and that's gone.
Can I say one of the great failures, I think, of professional pro tennis is not being cohesive in how our greatest champions, whether or not they're at the end of their career or they're recently retired, like Federer down here or Serena, or how they can contribute in a incredibly powerful way to the sport of tennis growing. Like, these are things that take strategy and cohesiveness, and it's a big miss from our sport. Like, Novak shouldn't have to be the one to figure this out on his own. Like, he should have the support of our sport to figure it out, just like Federer should have had in the now 4.5 years since he stepped down. So come on, tennis, let's get it together so that these amazing athletes that are followed throughout the world can continue to grow our sport in a thoughtful way that makes them feel satisfied and makes their fans feel satisfied, and tennis.
We also had Emma Raducanu in the main press conference room this evening, talking about her forehand, talking very confusingly about her forehand, Matt, on which there has been a lot of attention.
Yeah, I mean, watching her in the United Cup the other week, it was the first thing I noticed when I was watching her play. I was like, Emma Raducanu's got a different swing on the forehand, and a bigger swing, a bigger loop, which, you know, stood out to me. And then when I thought it through, it kind of made a bit of sense, because I know that she has talked before about wanting to get a bit more shape on that shot and that kind of thing. But at the same time, I thought one of Emma Raducanu's great strengths as a player over the years has been her ability to take the ball early, you know, and that swing looked like it could get rushed to me, particularly on a fast court. And maybe it's also, you know, she's trying to create some extra pace on it, so sort of swinging bigger and harder at the ball. Like, the Emma Raducanu forehand has probably needed a bit of work doing to it over the years. But today in the press conference, she sort of was talking about how it hasn't really happened on purpose. It's not been an intentional thing to lengthen the swing, but it is lengthened, and she is feeling rushed on it.
She shares your concerns.
Well, obviously, in this day and age of heavier pace, like, generally a bigger take back is counter to what most of us have been feeling is right for this era.
Yeah, they were... I don't know whether to be alarmed by what she was saying. I mean, it was great that she was being so open and straightforward and detailed about it. It was a great answer. It was in response to a question by Tamani Carriol, and I know they have a real relationship, and Emma really trusts him, and that's brilliant. But yeah, it was, she said, Francis, who is that's how she refers to Francisco Roig, she basically said, we spent the entirety of the last few weeks working on my forehand in a kind of big picture way, but what we've been doing is actually disadvantageous for this Grand Slam. That was my sort of, that's my précis of what she said.
Yeah, this Grand Slam where the courts are quicker,
yeah.
and she is feeling rushed on that shot.
And I think she's feeling rushed kind of generally because she arrived today from Hobart, where she lost a couple of days ago. She said she hadn't hit today. She had a practice scheduled for 9 p.m. tonight, because of course she's seen the schedule. She's playing day one, Sunday start, and she scheduled second match after a men's on the second court here. So she scheduled a late practice to try and get herself in the right swing of things for that. But it's not ideal, is it? I get the impression that, you know, she's got a good draw in round one, and there were periods of the match that I saw her play against Mirra at United Cup where I was very encouraged by what I saw from her. So I think she'll probably win through. But overall, it was sort of not a great. Didn't leave you with a great feeling about her prospects.
No, and I mean, I must say, she didn't talk about the forehand in, like, the tone of her voice wasn't like she was really concerned about it. You know, she sort of talked about it, as you said, quite openly, quite casually, as though, you know, it's something we'll fix. But that idea of being rushed, it has been the theme of her start to the season, hasn't it? Because she was hitting only very late before playing at the United Cup, playing points even later. I think she was also trialling a Yonex racket, actually, during the off-season, and ended up going back to the Wilson for the matches because she just feels she needs a bit more time with it before actually playing matches with the Yonex or switching racket. But, like, everything just seems like a bit rushed, as I say, and it's not what you want coming out for the start of the new season, I guess.
Feeling rushed, especially on the eve of the major, is the enemy. But this is where she can call on her past experience, and the fact that she seemed, I wasn't in the press conferences the way you are, the way that she seemed comfortable in communicating her concerns is actually a good sign. It means it's not overpowering her to the point where she wants to keep it a secret.
Yeah, I had the same feeling, Pam. We had newly Australian Daria Kasatkina in press today, her first pre-Australian Open press conference as an Australian, David.
Yeah, quite an extraordinary listen, this. 20 minutes she was in there talking to the media, all of whom asking the questions were Australian accents. I listened to it. I wasn't in there myself, but I listened to the audio from it, and it was quite something, really, to hear this and to hear the kind of cultural transition that she's trying to make, as well as playing under the flag. You know, she wants to understand the culture here. She wants to get to know it, and it really came through just what a hard time she's had, really, the last couple of years. I mean, she wasn't complaining, she wasn't moaning, she wasn't none of that. She wasn't feeling sorry for herself, but I got the sense from the way she was speaking that, I mean, she describes, she says, I've been trying to get out of this hole, and finally I can breathe now that I'm Australian, now that I feel Australian, now that I'm playing for Australia and I'm here. And she was just absolutely bowled over by how accepted she feels by everybody here. I think the general demeanour and attitude of people that she encounters here is the complete antithesis of what she's experienced in a lot of her life, certainly in recent years to date. And I think this has been a lot. I mean, she actually took a break from the sport late last year, and you know, she says, I just love the way the locals will just say, you know, come on, just go for it, just give it a crack, she said. And
has she started saying Adelaide? That'll be the real tell. You're only Australian if. But
no, it is one of the great things I think about this country as a sort of melting pot, really, is that you know, we've been in the company of Jelena Dokic the last few days, and remember the ups and downs of her transition to becoming Australian, and it was tough at times, but I think she's felt accepted in the end, you know, and Ayla Tomljanovic and so many different players over the years, and you know, it's great that Kasatkina has been welcomed in like this.
If I can bring up in women's tennis history a couple other examples, Hanna Malakova actually left Czechoslovakia back in the time and became an Australian back in the early 80s, and they really embraced her. But I want to kind of go even back further. I think someone who's going to be down here for Tennis Channel is Martina Navratilova, and what Kasatkina's gone through is a little bit of a defection from her home country and finding the best place to resettle. And I do think you can get a lot of peace from talking to somebody else who's not been through the same journey, but I would tell Daria Kasatkina, while Navratilova's down here, I don't know if Hannah's here. I know her daughter has a wild card, and I spoke to Ellie the other day at Kooyong. But there is a long list of women's tennis, especially from Eastern Bloc countries, that have resettled, that I think she can find that she's not alone in what she's been through. And I admire her strength and what she's going through, and I wish her the best.
Really powerful stuff. Okay, that is it for part one. Join us in part two when we'll talk about Tomas Machac But first, a word from our sponsors, Steve Furgal's International Tennis Tours, the premium hospitality and experience provider, and also an official ticket and travel provider for the chicest of all the slams, Roland-Garros. I know I'm saying that on the grounds of the Australian Open, but I don't think they would mind. I think all the other slams would give Roland-Garros the title of chicest.
Tournament director aside.
With Steve Furgal's, you can enhance your Roland-Garros experience with premium hospitality options, including Le Mezzanine, La Brasserie, L'Orangerie, and Club des Loges. Don't they sound chic?
They do.
These spaces offer elevated comfort, dining, and viewing without losing the atmosphere. You know what I'm talking about. The atmosphere that makes Roland-Garros so special. And huge news, Tennis Podcast listeners save 10% on all Roland-Garros ticket packages, making it easier to experience the Paris clay court tennis in true style. So the thing to do to book your Roland-Garros experience of a lifetime is to go to tours4tennis.com/podcast. That's tours, the number 4tennis.com/podcast, and save 10% with the code PARIS10. We'll see you there. Welcome back to part 2 of today's tennis podcast, where I was going to talk about the order of play, but seeing as Thomas Machac has gone and got the job done over Matt's right shoulder, we'll save the order of play for part 3, and we'll talk about Thomas Machac, Matt. 6-4, 6-7, 6-2 over Ugo Humbert to win the Adelaide title. Unfortunately, only 250 sweet points for your fantasy team. You had briefly thought you were getting 500. Is he going to win the Australian Open now, Matt?
Absolutely not. But I told you, though, you can't write off that talent. He is so good. Like, he is unbelievably good. The things he can do on a tennis court, he's gonna keep doing things like this, I think. Whether he can make that next step, and we've seen it before where he's looked good in the first few rounds of a slam, and then he suddenly has a big opportunity, and he, lays a bit of an egg. Like, I don't think we've learned anything new.
Doesn't this feel like
sense.
A step, though? I mean, the one thing that struck me is, yes, we see this spectacular tennis from him quite a lot, without necessarily amounting to an awful lot. But he was very efficient in beating Tommy Paul and now Ugo Humbert. These are good wins.
They are good wins. I mean, he did still manage to lose the second set today, but it was a high quality match, wasn't it? And he played really well. To me, look, it actually doesn't feel like that much of a step. This is the sort of thing I do expect him to be able to do. And he's got a tough first round here in Australia against Grigor Dimitrov. Like, him to go from this high to that first round, I think is tricky, but. Look, I love seeing him play like this because he's a showman and a talented one.
And a Yonex player. If I can just kind of say...
can you help his mindset, please, Pam?
It's interesting because meetings earlier today, one of my first really official days on the new job, was I asked a question like, obviously I know U.S. tennis Yonex players, I know women throughout the world because of my 2.5 years with Donna Vekic, but I'm actually quite curious what men from countries not U.S. might hear that my experience could help. And one of the questions the Yonex brought up was, do you think you can help Thomas Machac? And like, if he wants to be helped by someone of a different gender, different generation, different country, I think I can help him. But we'll see. I find it fascinating. And of course, Tommy Paul, also a Yonex player, so much talent, and Brad Stein's his coach. And it's going to be interesting in this new world for me is which guys are going to be willing to accept some help from a female who's been around the block.
Blooming hope so, Pam.
I really hope so. Yeah, I'll be dropping him if he's not accepting help from Pam Shriver.
Whether or not he does do jump forehands.
Yeah.
The Adelaide women's title, which was a 500, good news for David, was won by Mirra Andreeva. She beat Victoria Mboko 6-3, 6-1. David, Mboko was 3-love up when I left watching this match. She only won one game from that point onwards.
Yeah, I mean, there was a period in the second set where the trainer came out and I think was taking her blood pressure, which kind of tells you she wasn't feeling great. And look, I don't want to take anything away from Andreeva in that assessment, that observation, but yeah, not everything was right in Mboko's world just at that point. One thing I noticed throughout the tournament is how often this year in the first couple of weeks of the year, Andreeva has started slowly and either lost her first set or been a breakdown, but has just played her way into a match. You know, sometimes I talk about how best a 3-set match can feel like such a short amount of time to be able to get yourself into a match. I don't ever feel like that with Andreeva. She always feels like she's just got time to lose a break or so forth and feel out a match and find her way back into it.
Yeah, I think the only time I've ever thought that with Andreeva was kind of the end of last season, where it did feel like she'd hit the wall.
Yeah.
And I feel like for her game, she's someone who's so sort of methodical, and you have to be, I think, sharp in your mind and calm and willing to get into a match like that. And I think last year, after all the front-loaded success she had, I think by the end of the season she was tired and she wasn't able to sort of engage in those matches in quite the same way, and it would often come out with sort of quite negative sort of body language. But she seems like someone who's really benefited from the off-season, a reset, and this is now her first title since Indian Wells, and it just sets her up again as one of the absolute players to look out for, albeit, as we mentioned the other day, she does have a tough draw at the Australian Open.
Can we talk about the jacket?
I didn't see the jacket.
I want to thank myself.
She's got branded, bespoke clothing. I don't know whether it's just a jacket, but it says "I want to thank myself." Yeah,
and then it says Mirra.
How do we like it?
As far as like with my mindset hat on, I want to say I think that's a beautiful thing. Like to put yourself and to show a little self-love. I think it's awesome. Whether or not I would advertise it to the world, I don't know.
That's it. I love her I want to thank myself thing. I'm a big fan of that. Not sure how I feel about her going so corporate with it so early. I
think it's quite funny. It was my initial reaction.
While we're on the subject of kit, I wasn't going to go here, but Jannik Sinner's kit, the worst tennis kit you've ever seen.
The colours.
It's a hate crime.
What is it?
He doesn't seem particularly keen on it
he
either.
has slagged it off, and like quite right too. He has been stitched up. It looks like someone's taking the piss out of him, quite frankly.
It looks like a urine sample. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that was a sense.
I was more on the mustard side of things, but
usually it's people can have it's so horrible.
Is it for the whole tournament now?
Particularly horrible on him with his colouring.
I don't think they could have done a worse job of putting him in a kit.
It's unbelievable.
If he still wins, who cares?
I'm no fashion guru.
I think he cares a bit.
I know that looks
those
rubbish.
Photos are good. I mean, he doesn't want to not win just because he's wearing shit kit. But the more you win, the more photos of there are of you in perpetuity out there. God, it's bad. Hobart, Elisabetta Cocciaretto won the title there. A qualifier, Pam, beat Iva Jovic in the final 4-4. I think you watched this.
Yeah, I did. I watched it pretty much from midway through the first set. We know Cocciaretto has had some pretty good results the last 12 months. In fact, she was qualifying for Hobart. Surprised me. Because last time I saw her play a match was when she was thumping Pegula out on court 2 at Wimbledon easily. So obviously when she hits her high end, and she did today, Coach Ureta came midway through each set, just came up with unbelievable shots. Some of their rallies, if you can go on YouTube and watch it, they had some great rallies. And I was watching from my new job standpoint because Jovic is one of the more promising young Yonex players. I think she has a great future from the U.S., not far from my house in LA. She grew up in Palos Verdes Peninsula near where Tracy Austin grew up. So I was curious about this match, but Coach Ureta was just too tough. And I do think Jovic finished one match at like 1 a.m., the dreaded 1 a.m. finish at Hobart.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, I
already,
know.
Pam.
And so I think she was a little tired. And now it's the big transition, right? Okay, Hobart's over. How quickly can you get yourself to Melbourne, reset, have a light hit maybe on Sunday, day one, and get ready for your first round? It is a quick pivot.
And the same applies to Jakub Machac, who's won the title in Auckland, defeating Sebastian Baez 6-3, 7-6, and even more so because Auckland's that bit further. It's 4-hour flight from here. Obviously that's a brilliant result for Machac and for Baez. PS,
what a start to the season.
The most unbelievable start to this season. I mean, he was a guy that was a punchline on hard courts not that long ago.
He was a good draw.
Yeah, everywhere other than a clay court, he was a good draw, and he's been
2 slam finals for Baez in 2026.
Although, do you remember who Baez lost to at the US Open when I called somebody a piece of work? I think it was Medvedev beat Baez in fourth set on. It wasn't the sensation.
It wasn't
on
Chris
Armstrong.
O'Connell.
No, that was on Armstrong. I'm just saying.
Pam, just on playing the week before. I mean, back in the day, you would have been playing Eastbourne and then Wimbledon, for
Only
instance,
doubles.
right?
During the key part of my career, I would play Birmingham.
Yeah.
Do pretty well in singles. 4 titles there, and then maybe just play doubles in Eastbourne. Martina and Chrissy, though, can I just say, back in the day, they played some unbelievable Eastbourne finals the night before, but then it's like a 2-hour drive. You know, if you get on an airplane, when Donna got to within 2 points of a Wimbledon final a year and a half ago, she lost in the finals, tough 3-setter to Schneider in Bad Homburg. But the private jet got her from Bad Homburg to some private airfield in, outside London. She got to her flat by 8:30 at night. It all depends on the transition. I know Monterey has been the week before the U.S. Open the last couple of years on the women's side. That's been a brutal transition because that's that 4 to 5 hour plane ride like Auckland is.
Yeah.
Hours matter under this situation.
But do you think, and Catherine was reading off the players there that have got these titles or been in these finals, do you think that they are on the back foot a little bit, even because obviously you've got the matches in your legs and you've got this great winning feeling and all that sort of thing, but
depends on the mindset a little bit, right? Like, how can you reset, rest, recover? Don't feel like you have to do anything in the first 20 hours. Just really rest. Okay, go from, getting on the plane. Obviously, there's so much that goes into, like, just getting your gear and everything from one hotel room to the next.
Faff is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, faff. There is a lot of faff in this transition. The more your team can help you so that you're just walking through the airport.
Yeah. Team. You're my team.
Yeah, we help sometimes, don't we?
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. Adelaide has been a good warm-up for the women in recent years.
It's an hour flight.
Right.
So is Hobart.
Right.
But Auckland's different.
Yeah. But, I mean, Adelaide, Keys last year won Adelaide, went on to win the Australian Open. Sabalenka in 2023, Barty in 2022. Like, it's been a
Is that an
successful
Andreeva
transition.
prediction, Matt?
No, well, Ostapenko also won Adelaide in 2024 and then lost in the third round. So it's not a perfect stat.
Also, the weather is exactly similar, maybe 20 hours apart. It's the same weather.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. And similar court speed as well.
Yes.
I believe Hobart's slower, quite a lot slower. That was certainly what Raducanu was seeming to be saying in press earlier. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see. And we'll be back in part 3 to talk about our first order of play of the Grand Slam season. Welcome back to part 3 of today's tennis podcast, where the time is upon us to look through an order of play. It all starts on Rod Laver Arena tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. We have some staggered start times on different courts, so bear with me here. Rod Laver Arena starts at 11:30 a.m. with the qualifier Alexandra Sasnovich against 7th seed Jasmine Paolini. Matt has Paulini skin in the game, having tennis podcast meets with Paulini yesterday.
Yeah, we don't want to curse, do we?
Exactly. And yeah, tough opening the main court on a Grand Slam. You know, you're the opening act, aren't you? Your crowded house.
And we haven't seen much of Sasnovich in recent times, but she's a quality player.
She's tricky. I think she's tricky.
And having qualified makes you trickier, doesn't it?
She's got an extraordinary service motion.
Yes.
Describe.
Or just describe the face that Pam just made.
Yeah, it's not, it doesn't flow.
It's not fluid, is it?
No. If it works for her, but not one you'd coach from an early age.
No. And middle of the day, ball's going to be jumping. You know, I'm not predicting an upset, but tricky. Second on Rod Laver Arena tomorrow, Alexander Zverev against Gabriel Diallo. David thinks that's upset watch.
Yeah, I do. I mean, look, I've still got, ultimately, I've put Zverev in the quarters, but I think this is a real live danger, this first round match against a guy who's going to be looking eyeball to eyeball at him at the net for that coin toss.
Find out in the newsletter whether or not you've hedged.
Yeah, find out indeed. Subscribe to that newsletter if you haven't already.
The night session on Rod Laver Arena tomorrow, starting at 7 p.m, is Arina Sabalenka, the two-time champion, against Sarah Rakitimanja-Rajana, the French wild card.
Can I say, you really have got that name nailed, I think.
So I listened this morning or whenever you said the name for the first time. I just want you to know it's a great skill. Like, literally, I could have practiced for 3 hours on that name and not been able to do that. Like, the way your brain works, I just want to say, way to go, Catherine.
Thank you, Pam. What are the chances that I have stumbled upon a career where that skill is actually useful? Like, I could be working in IT and I'd never know I had that skill. Anyway, which makes you wonder what skills...
And also,
what other skills I have that I'll never know about. I could be great at darts.
We can practice that. We can
that
try
feels
that.
It feels achievable to find that out. Okay, I might be great at free diving. Never going to try.
And also, when is it going to become particularly handy that you can say her name? You know, in the Baltic van der Zandschulp, you know, when he had his moment, you were there, you were ready.
Yeah.
People were impressed.
Maybe it's going to be tomorrow night.
She's really... Look, it's not going to be tomorrow night, but she is talented. I do... But she's got skills. She is one to watch for the future, for sure. Also not going to be tomorrow night for Adam Walton, I don't think, against Carlos Alcaraz. But he'll give it a good go.
Speaking of got skills, Carlos Alcaraz.
Yes, a sensation on the night session and on Rod Laver Arena.
Yeah, I mean, look, always happy to watch Carlos Alcaraz play. Going to be watching his serve.
Yes, absolutely.
You know?
And how similar it may or may not be to Novak Djokovic's. The second court tomorrow opens with Maria Sakkari against Leolia Jean-Jean, which I'd call a soft launch.
Yeah,
I mean, they are soft launches, aren't they? The Sunday starts.
Yeah, I suppose Sakkari and Tsitsipas here do have a heck of a following, don't they? There's a large Greek community here that does come out to watch and create an atmosphere. But I mean, yes, she has not had the best of times in the last year or so.
And that almost makes it a bit odder to me that it's got that slot rather than like John Cain, where you've also got the general public getting into John Cain. You know, whereas you've got Svitolina and you've got Venus Williams on John Cain. Obviously, like, great that they can be seen by grounds pass holders, like, really cool. But I just sort of would have thought that those bigger names might have opened the second court.
Speaking of soft launch, second on the second court tomorrow, Francisco Cerundolo against Zheng Zhizhen.
Well, I want to see, I just got to say, I want to see players like Cerundolo try and like raise the level a bit. I mean, we know he's got one of the best forehands in the world. I just find it really, really interesting to see who can level up at the start of a year.
Pam's going to be there, second on the second court, Pam. That's the place to be. The night session on the second court tomorrow starts with one of the picks on the men's side for round one, Alexander Bublik against Jensen Brooksby. Would we call that upset watch?
I think a bit of one. Yeah, I think Brooksby, I saw him down here a few years ago before his suspension, and he was tough on court 3. I watched him play. I was waiting to interview him if he won, and he did. Bublik, he's got a little pressure on him now. We'll see. I think it is one of the watch matches.
What it's probably going to be, or has a good chance to be, is a long match with a women's match to follow it. Yeah. And Emma Raducanu, she didn't go nuclear on it, but she made it clear that that's really tough.
Yeah, it's unideal,
to be scheduled there. And it occurred to me as I was hearing that answer from Emma Raducanu that is a situation, that is an example where an attempt at equality actually ends up in active inequality, because there is the semblance of equality with always a men's match and always a women's match in the night session. It means that men can never play second after a men's match. That scenario never happens to men, and it happens repeatedly to women. And yeah, it's just things that don't occur. I mean, look, it didn't occur to me today, but I'm not in charge of making schedules, and I wish this stuff was, just saying, boom, yeah, 2 men, 2 women, #equality. It's not as simple as that.
No, it's not as simple. But if you are going to play second match on at night after a men's, I'd like to do it on the Sunday, where I think you have an extra day, right?
Yes.
So,
but then Raducanu's arrived from Hobart, so actually I think she would have preferred not to be on the Sunday. But
no, I get it.
Yeah. Nothing's ever perfect, isn't it? Raducanu's opponent, incidentally, Mananchaya Sawankiao.
That's pretty good too.
I don't know if that. I'm not absolutely confident I've nailed that, but that's my best attempt for now, and I will try and seek confirmation that I'm vaguely in the right ballpark there. Okay, moving on to the John Cain Arena. A real connoisseur's pick, I think, first up there at 11 a.m. Arthur Ferry, the British qualifier, very stylish player, up against Flavio Cobolli.
Yeah, that's a nice ball strikers match between 2 guys who can really move as well. I mean, look, obviously Cobolli is head and shoulders above in terms of level as a guy who's just done so much more with his career to this point. But Arthur Ferry's somebody who stood out to us for a couple of years, because when you see him, when the ball comes off his racket, it's got that trampoline effect that Matt was talking about earlier. He punches bigger than his size and rocks players back on their heels with how sweet his ball strike is. But sometimes you then see a player transition up against a guy who's top 20 or so, and you suddenly realise what the difference is. So it'll be fascinating to see whether having had 3 qualifying matches, coming in with some form, Cobolli's got a better pressure, whether he can actually make that close or not.
Yeah, I'm into that match. Second on John Cain tomorrow, Elina Svitolina against Kristina Buksha. Third on, it's the sort of twilight session. It's a not before 5 p.m. for Francis Tiafoe against Jason Kubler, or Kublev, as our was it a driver we had here?
Yes.
A couple of years ago?
Yeah, he's talking about what a good time he had watching Kublev.
And last on John Cain tomorrow, Olga Danilovic against Venus Williams. Venus Williams was asked about Olga Danilovic in her press conference today. The question was, do you know anything about your opponent, Olga Danilovic? And the press conference the answer reads, pause, very talented, love to see young women doing positive things. That's it.
I just want to say, I remember being on Venus Williams' match with Serena here in the second round in 1998.
Wow.
1998. And we're talking about her in 2026.
28 years ago.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Crazy.
Kia Arena. There's some sensations happening. We got Talia Gibson, the wildcard, against Anna Blinkova. Tristan Schulhate. One day I'm going to have to say his name in a more professional setting, and I'm going to say Schulhate. And
Skullkate.
Tristan Skullkate against Corentin Moutet, the 32nd seed. We have a not before 3:30 for the third match on Kia Arena, and that's Michael Zheng against Sebastian Korda. And the final match on Kia Arena is Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova against Bai Zhujuan of China. The 1573 Arena tomorrow, or Sunday, depending on when you're listening to this, is where you will find Mirra Kecmanovic against Thomas Martin Etcheverry, Katerina Alexandrova against the Turkish player Zeynep Sonmez, Benjamin Bonzi not against Daniil Medvedev, but instead against Cameron Norrie. However, are we supposed to know how good Daniil Medvedev is at the moment until he plays Benjamin Bonzi?
And in fact, Norrie was also a winner over Daniil Medvedev in the first round of a major last year.
Yes, very good.
This is the two people who beat Medvedev in the first round of slams last year facing off.
The ANZ Arena tomorrow, which is what they've renamed Court 3. It's gone corporate,
I'm sad about
Pam.
this.
And they've
ruined the
painted
outside of it.
It used to have the lovely graffiti on it, and I get it. The sponsor wants it to be all in sponsor colours, but
it's lost so much character.
Capitalism is bad, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, we can always go to the bar court.
yeah, Court 6 is where it's at. The ANZ Arena tomorrow is Jania Stremska against Elena Gabriela Rusa, Elsa Giacomo against Marta Kostyuk, Ugo Carabelli. What is the C?
Camilo
Ugo Carabelli, that's the badger, against Marton Fucsovic. Patrick Kipson against Francisco Comisana, and Polina Kudermetova against, haven't practiced this one, bear with me, Guiomar Maristani Zuelta de Reales. Matt?
Why are you coming to me? She's Spanish?
She's Spanish, yeah. Did it not sound Spanish?
Well, that's last on Court 7. I mean, maybe I have, it doesn't matter. There's
okay, sorry.
It's all right,
yes,
I don't
Pam,
want to correct.
No,
I mean...
folks, Pam is absolutely right. I'm going to have to say that name again now, and it's entirely my own doing. Fucsovic against Carabelli is indeed on the ANZ Arena. That is followed by Susan Lamons against Anna Potapova. Then on Court 6, we've got Putintseva Haddad-Maia.
Hang on, so they've put Putintseva on the bar court?
Yes.
Good work.
But first up at 11 a.m. So
Bloody Mary time.
One for the diehards.
You need a couple of drinks.
Emilio Nava against another Jacquet. Kirian Jacquet. Isn't there a female Jacquet?
There's a Chloe Paquet.
I'm getting Giacomo and Paquet. I've done a thing there.
You've done a sort of answer smash.
Yeah. Okay. No, this is a new person altogether. It is Kirian Jacquet. Never heard of him. He's a wild card. He's got the reciprocal wild card. That's why I haven't heard of him. I refuse to acknowledge that. Yannick Hanfmann against Zachary Schweider, the qualifier from the US, is last on Court 6. And now we get to Court 7, as Pam rightly points out, which is where we find Patrick Kipson against Francisco Comisania, and Polina Kudermetova, who now represents Uzbekistan, against Guiomar Maristani Zuelta de Reales.
Wow. That's well done.
Do we keep going? Do we keep going on this?
Well, we're almost there now. We're almost there.
Shall I be a completist about this?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Let me do the first one on Court 8. Katie McNally. Okay, you go ahead.
Do you not want to do who Katie McNally's playing?
Humeno Katsume.
Sakatsume. Yeah, let's...
I've been practicing Zhumer, who, of course, is... he's rough. Second on Court 8.
Yeah, second on Court 8
I like first on Court 13.
Me
Pam,
too.
you're getting ahead of yourself.
Sorry.
Liam Draxel from Canada is the opponent of Damir Jumhur. And then finally, Court 13, this starts at 2 p.m, Hayley Baptiste against Marketa Vondrousova. Court 13, that's a connoisseur's pick, isn't it? And Jaime Faria, the Portuguese qualifier, this is the last match on Court 13 against Alexander Blocks, who's got in as a lucky loser.
Having retired in the final round of qualifying.
Doesn't bode brilliantly,
never
that,
feels
does it?
great to me.
No.
Although he is in my fantasy team, so I'm thrilled he's in the main draw.
That's your day one. Any upsets, Pam?
Of course there's going to be upsets.
But which? Do you think Zverev could face a challenge
I think
there?
Brooksby could upset Bublik.
Right. Yeah.
It's always hard. It's always for sure hard to know. I really want to know how Venus Williams is going to play against Danilovic, because to be honest, to see a Venus Williams Coco Gauff second round match at a major 6 years after Coco beat her at Wimbledon would be unreal.
I think that's a decent draw for Venus, because Danilovic is a shot maker. I think the nightmare for Venus would be somebody that just extend their rallies and make her run. That's not Danilovic at all.
Yeah, and she's played a lot of good tennis, Venus Williams, in these past 6 months. Like often not quite able to get over the line, but she's had good sets and good moments. And yeah, just I do think it's possible that she can win that for sure.
And it's a mindset challenge, right? To play against someone who's in their mid-40s and you're in your 20s, and you think macho-wise, it's me.
It's like the pros playing the AMs in the one-point slam, isn't it? Exactly. Okay, I can't wait. We're ready for it to get going now, aren't we?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's been like...
That was this morning.
Yeah. It's been such a big build-up.
Yes.
So many exhibitions. They're all great, but let's get going.
Pam, can I introduce you to Gus, our Australian Open mascot? This is Gus. She's the one on the right, having a kiss with this other lovely Labrador. Pam is... Oh, hello, Bo.
Yep, Bo got groomed today, but this is all about Gus.
I'm now distracted by my boyfriend, Bo.
I know, we got a lot of dogs,
he's
but
a good boy,
Bo's a
Pam.
freebie. I got to get Bo sponsored. I got to get him a slot.
Today is Gus's birthday, Pam.
Oh.
An update from Renee. She says, when we introduced her as the Australian Open mascot a couple of days ago, she was 8, but today she's very excited to report that she's officially turned 9.
That's Bo's age.
Oh, what a great age. What a vintage.
63. That's my age.
Gus is spending her birthday exactly where she's happiest, in the snowy vineyard of Hudson Valley in upstate New York, eating snacks and celebrating with her younger brother Tumble. Oh my gosh, she's doing a nose bump with her brother, Pam. She's even been gifted a squeaky tennis ball, which she will certainly destroy within seconds. Happy birthday, Gus. Hello to our mascots, of course. Hello Bodie, hello Maisie, hello Roger. Matt, let's have some shout outs.
We have Chris Wiley from Cambridge.
Right, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Chris says that for the first time we've been successful in the Wimbledon ballot, with tickets for centre court on the middle Sunday.
Oh, yes, Chris.
That's awesome.
Wow.
You're going to love it.
Chris, like Chris Wilkinson.
Wow. There's a late 90s British player reference.
Like Chris Evert.
Yes.
Chris O'Neill, last one before Barty to win on the female side.
Chris Bailey.
An early 90s British player
Chris
reference.
Guccione.
Chris Lewis.
Oh, very good. He's
Chris
come up with a
Lewis.
sensation.
Yeah, Chris Lewis, Wimbledon runner-up from 1983.
Chris, there's something for everybody in that selection. I'm sure
Truman.
you'll agree.
Christine Truman.
Chris, have a great Wimbledon. I'm thrilled for you.
Yeah.
We've also got Moshi from Tel Aviv.
Right, Moshi.
Hello, Moshi. I think we know Moshi, maybe. Moshi's...
Yes, Moshi's a long-time listener and says, I want to dedicate this shout-out to my dear dad, Aryeh, which means lion in Hebrew.
Oh,
Love that.
My dad decided I would go to tennis lessons when I was 6 years old without asking me. At first I hated it, but slowly I fell in love with it.
You know, and
That is
Israel has
wonderful.
one of the best player development programs through the last few decades. It's amazing. And just thoughts go out as I return to Australia for what the Jewish population went through a few weeks ago at Bondi Beach. So happy that he sponsored this. This is awesome. Get on you, Moshi.
And Moshi says, don't bother to find tennis Moshis, but my brothers call me Mo, so we can mention Michael Mo.
And Little Mo.
Fantastic. Very
Little
good.
Mo, yes.
Great. Thank you, Moshi.
And finally we have Alan Chalmers.
Oh, Alan.
Get out of here.
Alan Chalmers, who run the Tennis History Bookshop.
Absolutely. Yep. Tennis historian, he describes himself as.
Yeah.
You love those, Matt. I mean, we all love those, but...
Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, that's really special.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Alan.
Alan. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Moshi. Thank you, Chris. Thank you to our executive producers, Greg, Chris and Jeff. We are, of course, part of the Athletic Podcast Network. We will be back tomorrow with our Day 1 Australian Open podcast, the first, of course, of 15, which is pretty standard now at Grand Slams. So thank you for listening. Do join us then. We do want to end this episode, though, with an important tribute, David.
Yes, we want to pay tribute to John Roberts, or JR as we knew him, who was the tennis correspondent to the Independent newspaper in the UK for nearly 20 years between 1990 and his retirement in 2010. He sadly passed away in the last few days, and is somebody that left a huge impression on everybody he met, including his readers as well. He worked for the Independent for all those years, but also wrote for the Daily Express, the Guardian and the Daily Mail. He ghost wrote books and columns for the great Liverpool football manager Bill Shankly, Kevin Keegan and George Best, and if you follow your football in the UK, those names will need no further elaboration. But in tennis, well, we have an association that represents journalists who travel the world covering the sport, called the International Tennis Writers Association, and Catherine Matt and myself are all members. And over the last couple of days, our email inboxes have been alive with tributes to John from journalists all over the world. And I'll just give you a very quick smattering of those. Richard Evans, a veteran fellow writer from the UK, said it was a privilege to work with a colleague as good, as decent and amusing and dedicated to his craft as JR. He wrote with fairness and lucidity, and even managed to keep a Man United bias out of his football reporting, which he covered as well as he did tennis. Peter Bodo in the US said John did not chase fads and never did anything just to draw attention to himself, except by producing clean, well-executed stories that got things right. And Linda Pearce, formerly of The Age in Melbourne, said she will never forget how kind and welcoming John Roberts was to me as a young female tennis writer at a time when there weren't too many of us. Personally, I knew John for over a decade. I echo all of those words. If John was in the media room, everybody else in there was in a better mood as a result. He was a lovely man, and he'll be much missed.
Yeah, lovely words, David. Very well said. Pam, thank you for your time today. It's wonderful
Thanks for having
to have
me.
you back in Melbourne.
Nice to be back. Can't wait.
We look
Missed
forward.
last year. Can't wait to be here this year. Love it.
See you on the bar court, and see you tomorrow at the end of day one.